Okay. So we're going to talk with Lloyd today. What I'm going to do is go through and I'm going to mute everyone. And then where is Lloyd? Lloyd, if you want to, there, unmuted Lloyd. Okay. If you do, and I don't want this to just be a conversation of Lloyd and I only. So if you want to participate, ask a question, add to the conversation, definitely just unmute yourself and jump in, and then we'll go from there. But I wanted to, so first of all, thanks for joining me this morning. We're just trying to bring some more value, and I wanted to get Lloyd on here. He's been in business for a long time. We won't give a date, Lloyd. He just turned 40. Recently here the last couple of months. But he's been in business a long time. He was through the recession. He's got management, team leader experience, mega agent experience. So lots of knowledge. And I wanted to bring him on so we could just kind of talk a little bit about what's kind of happening out there, how he worked through the previous shift, and just get his thoughts and stuff, how he's shifted his business now and then where he sees it going. And if you guys have questions, like I said, jump in and ask. We're going to spend about the next hour total. I'm also going to bring Brent Wilson on from Silverline Lending, and he's going to give us some insight as to what's happening in the mortgage industry, because I don't know if you guys have followed that, but some major changes have happened that could affect some of the deals. So Lloyd, first of all, thank you. I sent an email out to some of our agents, and Lloyd was the first one to reply. We're also going to be doing this with a couple other people. So thanks for volunteering to just kind of we're just going to have a discussion here. But so Lloyd, you worked through the previous shift, correct?
I did. Yeah, I did. Yes. And it was kind of interesting how the timing went, because I was with a smaller office in Dearborn. I was a manager. It was about 35 agents. And then April 1st, 2005, I had the opportunity to run the Coldwell Banker office in Northville. So it was probably double in size. So it was certainly, something I was excited about. But at the end of that quarter, we realized the market started to change. And of course, at the time, no one knew how hard it would change, how quickly it would change. But yeah, so I had a large office. I had a new family, and we were getting into the Great Recession. Talk about timing, eh?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So talk a little bit about like what the market was like then. What did it look like as far as inventory goes? Was it more like multiple offers, stuff like that?
Sure. Well, I think Roxanne's sharing her screen here accidentally.
Yeah, that is strange.
Hey, Roxanne, if you're there. I don't know if she can even hear us. You just want me to keep going, or?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if I can stop her. I don't think I can.
I think you can.
Got it. Okay. There we
Perfect.
go.
All right, good job.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so, a lot of people, when they talk about the last recession that we had, they look at it as a national level. But if you're really studying the numbers here in Michigan, we were probably one of the first major metropolitan areas to see that shift. So we saw it a lot earlier than everyone else did. And but you had to be paying attention to the numbers. And me being a DC, if we look at the disc, I'm always looking at the numbers. And something just didn't look right. We were no longer the path that we were before. So for me, I looked at the shift of happening really in mid 2005. When you talk to a lot of other people, they talk about 2006, 2007. But we saw the market starting to slow down. We saw a larger inventory, less homes selling. So that absorption rate went up. So there's key elements you need to be looking at to determine how healthy the market is. So, then once we started getting into it and realizing, okay, things are shifting, what did we have to do different to change? And that was the big key. And I was fortunate to have great leaders in my life, great mentors, brokers, that in working in pretty much all my jobs as a manager, I was paid to manage, grow, and coach the agents. I didn't have to sell, or actually I wasn't or they didn't want me selling real estate, which a lot of real estate offices, the manager also needs to sell, just because they can't compensate you enough. So my full focus was on growing that office and helping the agents, because if the agents didn't do well, that meant I wasn't going to do well. So I didn't have a choice. I had to succeed through them.
So what are some key focus areas that you worked on with them during that time to help them not only, because here's the thing, and I was there too, right? It was a different atmosphere that we have now, which we'll get to that in a minute. Yeah. But it's still that whole shift mentality on how, and this is what I've been kind of talking with agents is in our market that was a month ago, right? You could talk to 10 people, and out of those 10, you could find 5 that might be interested, and out of those 5, easily 2 that you could convert to a client. And I'm just kind of throwing numbers. Sure. During the recession, you might have to contact 20 to 30 to find those same 1 or 2, and then it was still a little shaky. So, what were some of the different activities that you would help these agents work on during that time?
So, and just real quick, and talking about the shift that we had back then and the shift that we have now, there's a lot of similarities. There's also a few things that are different. But some of the similarities, and I think anytime there's any big shift, is you have to get your mindset right. You have to be the calming force. Now, there's so much uncertainty out there. So, I mean, it was interesting talking to my wife, who's an RN. She was looking at the ER numbers yesterday, and she couldn't believe how many people in the ER for attempted suicide. So this is, a big deal, and people sometimes are challenged in how to cope. So we as agents need to make sure that we're in the right mindset, that we're the calming force. And it's almost kind of like a duck. When you see a duck kind of gliding on the water, they look really smooth, but if you look at, under the water, they're like paddling like hell. It's kind of how I look at doing my job. I want people to look at me as being calm, but I'm working hard every day to do these certain activities to help buyers and sellers and help keep my business going. So going back to your question, sorry, your question was?
Fine. Yeah. Just what were some of those activities that you helped them get the focus around?
First was mindset, realizing this isn't the end of the world. Realizing, okay, what are the key things that we need to do to help the buyers and sellers? And some of the big things is, first, we needed to find the motivated, because there was a lot of people when the market shifted, they weren't necessarily motivated buyers or sellers. So we could be spending a lot of our time working with these people that really aren't that motivated, okay, and we're not going anywhere. We're not helping them because they're not willing to do what it takes to get the house sold. And then we're also that's taking up our time to finding those people that do need to do something. So besides getting your mindset right, it's finding the motivated, those people that need to do something right now. So no matter what the market's doing, there's always a certain percentage of people that need to either buy or sell. Either they're getting transferred, they're getting married, they're getting divorced, they're having kids. So no matter if the market's doing great or not doing great, there's people out there that have that immediate need. So then once we're finding the motivated, okay, it goes back to scripts and dialogues. What do we need to do to sharpen our skills to be able to communicate with these clients on what they need to do, whether it's buying or selling? So it's really doubling down on the skills necessary to grow. I mean, in a good market, we see the number of units go up of closed deals. Right. We also see the number of agents go up. Okay, because right. when real estate's easy, you don't need to be a great salesperson. All right, when the market gets difficult, okay, those people that have strong skills are going to excel. So it doesn't matter what the real estate market's doing. It only matters what are your activities that you're doing to help build your business and help buyers and sellers.
There you are too. Oh, they see you too.
Hi.
Hey, Tiffany, welcome to the call. There we go. Okay. I need like a producer to sit in the background and make sure people are are muted. Okay, so I love that. So find the motivated, you find that percentage of people who need to move, and
Right.
then scripts and dialogues. So let's talk for a minute. So that was our market then,
Mhm.
and those were the things that we could do
Sure.
to stay in business and grow our business.
Right.
So now we've shifted within like literally the last month. We've
Correct.
had this, and it is a huge shift, I would say, and it's a forced shift because of the healthcare. Now that's
Right.
the other difference, right? Before it was there. I mean, yes, we don't have jobs now because people are being forced out of their job to get this unemployment. So let's talk a little bit about what does the market look like to you right now,
Yeah.
and how are we handling that?
So we also have to be careful of that there are a lot of people that are laid off or don't have jobs, but there's still a percentage of the people that are working that do have jobs. So everything that I shared with you on the shift from before, I don't see anything different in what I'm doing now. We still need to find the motivated, okay? And it's a small percentage of the pool, okay? But they're out there. We need to sharpen our skills. I mean, we really need to get to work. I mean, when you really dissect of what we do, there's still a large amount of that as a real estate agents that we can still do. Again, the scripts and dialogues, learning the skills, our database. You know, are we growing our data? I mean, there's so many things that I wanted to do that I thought, man, if I just had, you know, some time to do these projects, well, now we have the time. So this isn't the time to slow down and binge watch on TV. I mean, there's a ton of things we can be doing to still grow our business because eventually the market will change. Okay, once we get past, and who knows how long it is, I'm not going to speculate, but the market's either going to go, I think, one of two ways. One, the floodgates are going to open and we're going to be flooded with business. Or two, if this goes long enough, the business, we may go into a recession. Either way, there's still activities that I need to do today to work and to build that pipeline. So from what I shared earlier, I don't see all those things to me still apply. The difficult part is how do we get in front of buyers and sellers virtually? And what are the conversations that we're having with these people? So I think that our key in building our database, we need to be in contact more with our database than we ever have. And it's not necessarily about, hey, who do you know that's thinking about buying or selling, but just touching base with them. Is there anything that I can help you with? Is there anything that you need? Doing more on, obviously, social media. People are home. More time. Sorry, I didn't know if that was a question or not.
No, it wasn't. Keep going.
But you know, stay in contact with people, social media, doing more videos, and you know, what can we do to provide value in our customer's life? Is it things about, for instance, the act that was passed and some of the mortgage companies on them extending, I forget what that act was called, something care, right? I'm actually trying to find more information about so I can share that with my clients, that there's a lot of mortgage companies now that allow them to, I don't want to say skip the next 3 months, but postpone it. But there's also some challenges with that because the way, from what I'm reading, is they still, of course, owe those payments, but they'll just be due 90 days from now. But then there's some talk of, well, will they just add that to the end of the mortgage? So, you know, our business right now is kind of changing every day. So just staying in contact, keeping on the edge of that so we can share it with our customers. And it could be also sharing things with our customers as things they can do around the home, things they can do with the family. So just look at it, and the people that you communicate most with, your sphere, what can you do to provide value? And try and do that on a consistent basis. And also be the calming force. You know, we're going to get through this. And what's, for me, and don't take this wrong, my heart goes out to everyone that has been affected. I mean, this is a serious problem. We all need to do what we can to help slow this and stop this. Yet shift also brings opportunity. So there's a lot of opportunity both on a professional level, but also on a personal level. So the change in the shift was, you know, those people that are going to take the time to grow their business, become skilled, they're going to grow their business even in a down market. And that market share they gain, they probably won't lose. There's so many agents I know, some in our office, that built their business on a declining market. And then just on a personal level is, and I'm, I guess, an optimist at times. Anytime there's a bad situation, I'm looking at, okay, what can I learn from this? What can I take away from this? And spending more time with my family and doing activities, playing games, baking, things that we typically only do when we're on vacation. So I'm going to try and capitalize as much as I can on that to see, okay, this is part of this can be good. There's some good in this, put it that way. The gift of the shift, I think, what Jay and Gary called it in the shift book.
Yeah. I like that you said, be that constant for your people, for your clients, for your sphere. Jason Abrams says all the time, in the absence of true leadership, people will listen to whoever is loudest. And right now there's a lot of loud people. So
there's a lot of noise out there.
A lot of noise out there, right? And people are looking for that leadership. They're looking for where is that calm mind, that calm voice that I can go to. So,
right.
I like that. That's your push to get in front of your people and let them know from this side of the fence, this is what we're seeing, this is what's happening, and here's how we can help you. And coming from contribution, right? You're not just calling and saying, are you looking to buy or sell? Thanks, bye. Right. It's what do you need? How are you doing? Can I help you with anything? And really, like, if you think about it, that's, I think most of us probably got into this business, or at least once we were in it, realized that we're doing this because we like to help people.
Correct.
Obviously there's the other perks that come along with, being in real estate. However, that's, I think, a foundational piece is we're a servant, and that's part of it. So what I'd like to ask you, Lloyd, is I'm sitting in the audience here. We got 44 of our agents on the line here, and I'm sitting here and I'm saying, you know what, this is all great, but I'm struggling to pick the phone up and call people and ask them what they need, as if I could help them as a real estate agent. Sure. So what script, what opening line, what are you saying, or what would you suggest that these people could do to just break that ice?
Right. So I'm going to answer that in 1 second. I want to interject on something that you said, because people listen to sometimes who's the loudest. And you're right, there's a lot of noise out there. And you really want to pick who you follow very carefully, because there's people out there that maybe have not been through a shift, but what they're saying sounds easy or sounds fun. It could be the easy road. Odds are it's not going to lead you to where you need to go. So the only way through this to be successful is going to be hard work. It's doing things that you may be uncomfortable with, but knowing that the people sharing this information with you have been down that road before. They know the path. It's not going to be easy. All right, the next probably year, if not longer, is going to be a lot of hard work. You're probably going to be working harder than you ever have before. Okay, but it's a proven plan. So going back to your question was, it's just a conversation. Hello, how are you? I've been thinking about you and your family going through this. Is everyone okay? Is there anything that I can help out with? I mean, it's really just a conversation on a personal level. It's not salesy, and it could be out of your comfort zone. So maybe even texting too, but don't do a bulk text, make it personal to them. Just communication. I think over the phone, it's a lot easier to communicate versus text. Text and emails don't convey tone. So even though you may not be comfortable with it, this is what we need to do now. And, we can't solve everyone's problems. Most people aren't going to say, yeah, I need something. But if they do, say, well, let me see what I can do to help.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I've always kind of subscribed to is we don't have to be the experts on everything. We just have to be a good connector. So if someone does say, actually what I'm struggling with, and keep in mind this as well, when we're making these calls, people aren't necessarily looking for you to solve all the problems they have. Sometimes just telling it to someone is really great. I know for me, that's something that I've got like a core group of people that I know I can call and just kind of spew onto them. And they're like, and they don't try to fix it. They just listen. And then I'm like, I feel a lot better, but we just have to be good connectors.
Right.
And if someone's struggling with something or whatever it is, we have that ability. I mean, if you don't know someone that can help them, reach out to the rest of the agents in the group. And I think that's a great point, Lloyd. The other thing, and I wrote down here, is like, don't overthink it. Just pick the phone up and have a conversation. And I think talking to some of the agents that I talk to, they get wrapped up in this, how is this first 5 seconds of this conversation going to go? And the phone gets too heavy and they can't even pick it up. And
Right.
if you can just pick it up and say, hello, how are you? The rest of everything kind of takes over.
Yeah, because this is something that's new, that there is no really script for this. So it's just being interested, and hey, I've been thinking about you. Just want to make sure everything's okay. How are you and the family doing?
Yeah.
It's really basic. And my sociability is kind of forced. I mean, if I had the option to be in front of a bunch of people by myself, I'd probably be by myself.
Right.
Yet I do care about people. And
Sure.
I do, if someone's in need, I do want to help. It's coming from contribution. I mean, if you help enough people get what they want, the Zig Ziglar line, they're going to help you get what you want. And
100%.
it might not be now. So we're not building business for today. We're building business when we get through this, they know someone that's thinking about them, that's caring about them. And we're going to be asking them. Right now is not necessarily the time for that, my opinion.
Agreed. So let's talk a little bit about what have you done to shift your business specifically in the last month here?
I'm a big fan of education. And, probably half my days are spent educating myself, networking with the top agents from across the country, figuring out, okay, what do we need to be doing differently? What are the other agents that are doing they're being successful? And again, you got to pick those people wisely. So for a pivot with Jay Papazan from the Shift, I mean, dig into that. I mean, there's a lot of great content that's there. Again, proven models, but it's spending time on those. I've been in more Zoom conference calls than I ever have been before. But again, it's figuring out, okay, what do we need to be doing different? I got so much in my head. I'm trying to share with everyone. What was the question again? What are we doing different?
What have you in your bit, like specifically for the business? Is there anything that you've done? Like, have you, like, for example, there was a group I was talking with last week, and we were saying, like, we've pulled back on mailers, and we're going more in on something else. Is there anything financially you've shifted?
It's looking at the expenses that we need to cut, things that we forgot that we're even paying for, to be honest, or we're not getting value from it. That in a good market, it really didn't matter as much. But again, it's the Shift book, right? All right.
Yep.
One of them was, number 2, remargin your business. So cutting those expenses that we don't need. When it comes to mailers, I might have a different opinion on that, but there's a lot of people that are home. There's a lot of people that, they're looking through their mail now because they don't have as much stuff going on. So, I mean, again, depends what your budget is, depending on, your savings, things like that. But if it's working, you may want to keep doing that. So.
Okay, so cut some expenses, see what's, and I'll tell you, I know for me personally, it wasn't even the business expenses that I went through, because I run a pretty lean business to start with. It was my personal expenses.
Absolutely.
And when I started going through those, I'm like, in just those things, it's like, wow, what are these little monthly bills that I get that maybe $4.99 for some app that I downloaded that never ended up working out for me? Or those yearly expenses that, you can pay for the year up front. And instead of it being, $20 a month, it's $15 a month with a yearly subscription. And I go through, it's like, I paid for that and used it for 30 days. And now I don't even know what it is, and go back and cancel that, so it doesn't re-up in the year. Little things like that added up for me. And I was just shocked that all of these expenses were stuff that were just sitting there. And like you just said, when times are good and money's flowing, no big deal, you don't worry about it. But then we have to prepare for if things do, if we come out of that, what you said, there's 2 ways this will happen. If it's the latter and we come out and there is this recession, better to be ahead of the curve than
Right.
trying to chase it, right?
Right, ahead of the curve. You've sharpened your skills, because no matter which way it goes, you can be ready for that, and you could have the opportunity to build that market share. So as scary as it could be, lean into it, because you have the greatest opportunity right now. Um,
So Lloyd, what can we're going to go kind of back to back here with this question. So what can a newer agent, right? So I'm maybe a year and a half into my career here, just started to maybe see some results,
sure.
just get that traction. What can I do right now to come out of this ahead of the game?
Okay, first, coaching. So we'll get into more of the details in a second, but I think it's critical to have a coach. And it's even more critical in times like this to have a coach. So whether if it's in the office or someone, you're paying through maps, don't stop that. Actually prepare for those calls more than you ever have before. Be 100% there, not just physically, but mentally, because this is the time that you need that support. So as a newer agent, there's so much that you need to learn, and this is a great opportunity to do that. Again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's that important. The scripts, the dialogues, the database, command, the technology. These are things that you should be working every day on. I mean, there's no reason why you shouldn't be working still 8 hours. And again, I understand that people have kids that are home. I do. I got 2 little girls. So I certainly get that. But the best that you can, there's always stuff to do. When I see people that are like, oh, I'm so bored, it's like, I haven't been bored since like college, where when you have the opportunity where you can take a nap.
Right.
But there's so much that we can do, both business-wise, professionally, and personally. I mean, maybe there's in the evenings, again, spending time with the family, or learning a new skill, a new hobby. So going back to that new agent, there's basic core things that we need to learn, and building your database. So when you're making those calls, reconnecting with people that you haven't talked to in a long time. Again, so you're still making the calls, but there's a different tone to those calls, yet you're still having conversation with people. So, and right now with a lot of people being home, you can have more of those conversations. So this is a great time to really build that database, adding more numbers than you have had an opportunity to do before, because you have more time to do it. More people are picking up the phone, more people are talking.
Would you say, and obviously you don't know because you don't crystal ball, but in
Right.
your experience, if an agent was focused on, and I guess whether you're a new agent or not, but if I'm a newer agent and I really had intention behind that activity,
Sure.
and for the next, we'll just say 60 days,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I focused on and built that database and got the notes of the people into the system, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just did it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Would you bet your next paycheck that agent would on from day 60 to 90 is going to be able to have pending and closed deals?
Yeah, most likely. Again, we don't have a crystal ball, so we don't know how long this is going to last. But yeah, I mean, real estate is a 90-day cycle anyways.
Yeah.
So the stuff that we do today is laying the groundwork of, 90 days from now, what is our income going to look like? Absolutely. I've had agents that, one in particular, that came in on a down market. And again, as a manager for that company, I was the coach, I was the trainer. So like agents, I'm looking for the motivated. I don't have the time to train everyone that just kind of wants to try it out, or they got into real estate because they like people and they like homes. I'm looking for the motivated that care about people, that want to serve, but also want to make money.
Right.
So in that down market, I had an agent first year in the business, make over $100,000, so it's possible.
Yeah.
So there's lots of things as a new agent can do today that they need to be doing to build that business. So absolutely, if someone's motivated and serious, they can be successful. It's going to take maybe a little more time depending on how long it takes for us to get out of this.
Sure.
But no doubt about it, they can be successful.
Okay, so now let's shift that to someone who is established or more established, we'll say, and we won't put like a production level on it. We'll just say, they're in business and they're comfortable weathering this storm, but what would you have them be focusing on right now?
kind of the same thing.
Yeah. Funny
You
how
know?
that works out, huh?
Yeah, it is. I mean, because there's basics in the business, and when it gets harder, all this easy stuff, all this static that's out there, all this, easy button goes away because it wasn't working. You were getting the business because you were there. So when a market changes and it gets hard, it goes back to the basics. And the basics is being skilled, working hard, the communication, building your database, finding the motivated. And, it's not sexy. It's not fun.
No,
It's a
I
grind.
listened to, and so I said, in fact, I got my book right here, The
Mhm.
One Thing. I subscribed to the podcast. I've read the book multiple times. I'm rereading it again right now. I did a webinar or Zoom call that I did for some other agents yesterday, and I went through that. And in that book, what Gary talks about is like embracing the monotony of success, which is getting up and doing those activities, your most important work every single day. And from this conversation, it doesn't change from top producer to top producer that I talk to. It's the same conversation when I ask them, what should I, being an agent, be doing right now, whether it was 6 months ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, or today.
Correct.
The theme is you get up, you get your most important work done, which is diving into that database, not only feeding it, but then maintaining it. And
Right.
if everyone just did that, it seems like, we'd all have more business than we would know what to do with. And when you have shifts like this, you're able to weather the storm and just go back to even doing that more because
Right.
you've got the time.
Right. And I think as an experienced agent, if you have a little more of a budget, you can do the mailers. As long as, especially, I wouldn't blanket, the whole city, but
No,
certainly your database, your farm that you're getting business, the areas that you're getting a return on. And again, it's just being in contact with your clients and over communicating. That's one thing that we haven't brought up yet. Over communicating to everybody, especially those people that you're in transactions with, and it could be talking with them every couple of days, just touching base with them, making sure everything's okay. Again, being that calming force, realizing that we're going to get through this and we're doing everything that we can to help them. You had also said something that made me think of a movie. I'm kind of a big movie buff. So A League of Their Own. I don't know if everyone's seen that. It's back in the 90s. So it was basically a movie about World War II and the women professional baseball league. And there was a scene kind of near the end where Dottie, who was kind of she was the star player, she was the pitcher, she was quitting the team. And her coach kind of caught her as she was about to drive off, Jimmy. And she's like, he's asking like, why is she leaving? And she said, it just got too hard. And his quote, which I love, is, it's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. The hard is what makes it great.
Mm.
So in a great market, anyone can do real estate. Okay, when it gets hard, you have to be skilled. You have to know what you're doing, and you can learn that right now. So the hard is what makes it great.
Gary Keller had sent out an email. It was either Gary or Jason Abrams, I can't remember, but in that email, and this was a little bit ago, he said this market has allowed a lot of agents to become a spectator in their own sport. And it really made sense to me, and it kind of goes along with that quote you just said, because, working through the previous recession, it was tough, and it was finding those motivated people. And I tell the story to a lot of agents about, like, during that time, I was chasing land contract buyers around St. Clair Shores because that's where the money was and that's where the deal was. And these people were motivated to do it. So I went out there and made it happen for them, finding that motivated. And it was hard. It was tough. But those of us who came out of that on top, and I don't know who I was sharing this with the other day, my volume, or my units went up every year throughout that recession. My income didn't go up every year,
Sure.
but the units went up. And then when you came out of that, it was like, boom, like it was that hockey stick curve that Gary talks about in The One Thing. And it all came back to, again, it was hard work, find those motivated people, and help them. And diving into building that database, I built a huge database during those years.
Yep. I mean, Perna, he really built his business,
Yeah.
off the market. Mark Z, so Mark Z was one of my agents, and Mark Z was fortunate because of his sphere. He could fall out of bed and sell $7 million.
Yeah.
And he was doing that regularly. But he wanted more.
Yeah.
And it was during those difficult times that he made those changes to do the things that we talked about, learn the scripts, learn the dialogues, put in those duplicatable things that we know that work. And, it is hard. We would go in to talk to sellers. So at the worst of the market was going down 1.5% a month. So we wouldn't look at the sold date. And this is, again, going back to knowing your numbers, we were looking at the pending date, because typically the pending date, assuming it appraised, was the date that buyers and sellers determined what the price would be. So we would look at, okay, when did it go pending? Okay, that was 6 months ago. So if the market's going down 1.5% 6 months ago, then we got to take another 9% off of that price.
Mm-hmm.
So again, and Gary, or Jay and Gary both talk about it. Let's see here, number 7 of the shift. Price ahead of the market. And for us to have the success, that's what we had to do. We had to have these really difficult conversations with the sellers, because they're like, well, this one sold here. Why do I need to price it down here? So we had to have the explanation, the dialogues of, well, the market is moving, and it's moving at 1.5% a month. So yes, the price was there. That was 6 months ago. So we need to be at least here, if not lower. So we had to get in front of. So when the market's going up, the value is here, the sellers want to price it here, and okay, we'll try it, on an upward market, it'll catch up. Reverse, you're going to be chasing the market.
Right.
And, it was difficult. We would walk in, clients or our agents would walk in, and, the sellers would be in tears. My agents would be in tears. They're telling me and the sad stories, and I'm in tears. Yeah, at the end of the day, we had to deliver the truth. So we need to know what was the truth. So knowing the numbers and being able to be skilled to share with them in a way where they understood it. So, and it's really hard for part of our agents, especially those IS, because they don't want to deliver bad news. You almost have to look at yourself like a doctor, and you have a patient here, their foot, gangrene on their foot, and you have to amputate the foot. Okay, but you're saving their lives. So if the foot needs to be amputated, you can't tell them, well, maybe we can just, give you some medication. No, you have to cut off the foot. The good news is we're going to save your life. And we're not doctors. No one's going to die. But they have a lot of money. People's houses are usually one of their biggest investments. We need to tell them the truth, no matter how hard it hurts.
Yeah, I like know your numbers, not even just like your conversion numbers, but what the market is doing, and that's all part of it, right? We talk about this all the time, knowing your numbers, and I think that is probably even more important, is knowing what that market is, so you can have those intelligent conversations with your sellers. So, okay, so if you have questions for Lloyd, go ahead and unmute yourself, and then I can see, because I think you'll pop up to the top of my list here. But we do have a question in the chat here. What is your opinion about getting houses on the market during this time versus marketing them as coming soon?
Yeah, I think more people, well, not I think, more people are online, more people are home, more people are looking at houses. I think that's proven at this point. I don't see a downside in having those homes on the market. I was very proud of my numbers and my list price to sales price, my days on market. I was very proud of that. That's all changed now. And hopefully the MLS will also change the days on the market. But end of the day, I look at what's best for the consumer. So for my seller, I think it's better for them to have the house on the market where people can still see it online, do virtual tours. So we're putting them on the market as soon as we can.
And then just to kind of back that question up, if an agent is calling you to do a showing, how are you handling that process right now?
Really qualifying them at a higher level. All right.
Okay.
We just don't want everyone walking to their home, but there is a small percentage of buyers out there that need to find something right now. So it's talking to their lender, are they pre-qualified or are they pre-approved? And also, asking the questions, anyone sick in their family, having gloves, having masks, having sanitizers, having the seller wipe everything down. If the sellers are okay with that, still allowing that showing, but definitely qualifying on a much higher level than we ever have before.
Yeah, I know some of the agents too are asking to see not only the pre-approval, see the pre-approval letter before, but also the buyer agency or buyer broker contract as
Yes.
well, the exclusive buyer contract. And then they're also, just a side note, doing some, one of the agents gathered all of the buyers that had called on a new listing and did a Zoom call with the seller and did a walkthrough that way also. Yeah. So getting creative at this time is important. Have you figured out a listing process for pictures and virtual tour during this time for listings taken?
Yeah, as you mentioned before, hopefully the seller has a decent camera that they can go and take photos. So there's no easy way, but trying to get the sellers to do that. Since this is a recorded call, I would never suggest anyone break the governor's order. So.
Good. I think Pete may be listening somewhere, so I'm glad you said that. And I know that there was some talk of.
I was just getting ready to chime in, Rob.
Oh,
did I cover that okay, Pete?
Yeah.
I think that these days also, and not that I'm a fan of cell phone photos.
No, me neither.
I think given the circumstances, they will do the trick.
Sure.
And keep people safe and healthy and get us through this quicker. So if it's a matter of, hey, can you go out and just send me some photos? Here's what I need. Here's the angles I want.
Correct.
Coach your clients through that process and just, turn all the lights on, get the windows open or the blinds open, the curtains open, stand here, perfect. We'll make this work. And also, so everyone knows, you can take those photos and ship them off to the website Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com. Get someone to do some quick editing, brighten them up a little bit. If you're comfortable doing it, you can do that. It goes a long way. So
yes, yeah, coaching is really important because they're not used to taking photos,
right?
And so many times I'm like looking at agent photos, like, oh my gosh, you at least could have got out of the car when you took the front of the house,
right?
Or you put the toilet seat down,
right?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this though, Lloyd, really quick question.
Sure.
If we do let an agent in, okay, so I have a listing right now, and if we let one person in versus the 4 other offers I get, so I have 5 offers, and we pick the person that got to go in the house, isn't that the same thing as before when we used to get a letter from or a picture from a family and we gave them preferential, like it shows special, you know what I mean?
I'm going to answer part of that, then I'm going to defer part of it to Pete. So part of it is, the first part, we're having the conversations with our sellers of how they want to handle this situation. Okay, my recommendation is we're only letting people in that are healthy as far as we know, and that are capable of being able to purchase their home and looking to do it on that they need to do it sooner rather than later. Mm-hmm. Pete, what else do you want to add to that?
I think we do have to be very careful about letting people in home based on what the order is. I know Heidi has shown a home and sold a home because she needed to. And I do believe if somebody's in a desperate need, that's fine. Ultimately, it does come back. I believe it's a moot point if the sellers say, no, I don't want anybody in my house. Plain and simple. That's just not, it's a moot point. But moving forward, if they say, yeah, I'll let, you can see it. Anybody going out showing homes basically is violating, the law right now. And I think you just have to be very careful with that. You're not violating the law if you let somebody in. I mean, it's the person who's actually out there, but I think there is something to be said that if somebody has to find a house for whatever reason, okay, great, but it shouldn't be every house shouldn't have somebody looking at it. Let's put it that way. I think that's a fallacy when people say my client needs to be in there now. Everyone's going to start using that line. I'd be surprised if they didn't, so I think that right now I'd be very careful if I let into the house. And I know that's kind of an evasive question, but I mean, we're all flying by the seat of our pants right now. I mean, it truly is. I think there's more and more people that are buying, I don't want to say sight unseen, but without physically being, in the property. I know. Go ahead, Lloyd.
You can be creative and put a condition in there contingent upon, buyers, seeing the home. I mean, it's being creative at doing things we haven't been able to do or have done before. So.
Yeah,
And
go ahead. Who was going to say
I was just
something?
going to say, we've got a large number of people on, so I just want to tell you guys, there are a few cases that some of you have brought up where your client has to buy, and the way that the executive order is written, there is some leeway for that to happen. However, you must have a letter that allows you to travel for those purposes. And people are getting stopped and questioned, and the police have been instructed to, enforce that rule. In order to get that letter, we need to have a conversation, and I'll let you know that conversation is going to be a little bit like a FBI interrogation of me asking you questions on, is this a real situation? And if we deem that it is, then we'll give you a letter for that client only, and it will be like Pete just said, a very, very small percentage of the time we're going to agree to this. And so just make sure that you're doing the right thing. I don't think that this is going to get abused by our office. The other thing I want to mention, and it got brought up in the chat, is if you request to show a home and the listing agent says no, do not fight them on it. Do not push back. Just say, hey, I understand, no problem, and move on. Okay. That's the other thing. They don't have to let you in. The sellers do not have to let you in. Even if your client has to buy today, don't fight them on this. We are in uncharted territory. And the worst thing that you can do for yourself is fight agents when they say, no, we're not allowing showings. Just move on. Heidi, did you want to? Oh, I'm sorry, Christine.
Yeah, may I ask a quick question here? So I have a closing tomorrow morning at 9:30. And I guess my question is, can I go wait in the parking lot, pick up the package afterwards, and go back to the office and process it? Or how are we handling that?
So what we've been telling agents to do is have the title company email you your documents, and then they can send the check to us. They can drop it off at our Dropbox at the office. We do, in some cases, we are wiring funds, which you'd have to talk to Carolyn on what qualifies for that, because I'm not sure if we're doing it for everyone or just legacy right now. I don't want to say too much more than that.
Hey, Rob, let me jump in real quick.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
If it's in-house, in our office, everybody knows, and we're still having people not play by the rules. You are not to go into the lobby of our office with your clients, and you're not to sit in with the closing. You guys want to meet them in the parking lot? Have at it. Let them go in, do their thing. We want the people signing, whether it's one person or two. If the wife's not signing, she doesn't go in. Okay? We have to protect everybody. If there are other, and I've talked to a couple different title companies, most of them right now will, like Rob said, email it. And that's what we want from now on. We want packages emailed. We don't want you guys to have hard copies, because we've let this slide. It's a RESPA violation when you guys leave hard copies sitting in your offices. Okay? Not supposed to be there. So if we can get them emailed to the office, and the checks can either go, and this is where I need to follow up with Carolyn on. If FedEx can't get in, then there's a problem, okay? And if the mail can't get in, there's a problem. But we're working through that. I mean, I told Perna the other day that if it comes to a certain point, you can mail them to my house, and I'll make sure they get to the office. But most of them will either drop it off in the mail or in the Dropbox, which is the best way to go. And then Carolyn's processing pretty much every day right now. So it's not going to delay anything for you guys as long as the title company gets you the checks. So
Yeah. Yeah, we're business as usual as far as the leadership team is concerned. We're working remotely. Carolyn is the only one that actually goes in, and she goes in for essential business so we can get the stuff processed. So don't worry about that on your end. I've had a couple people reach out to me and say, when will I get my check? How do I get paid? We're paying people just like we were a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a year ago. So no sweat there. I was just going to run through the last couple questions here because I want to get to Brent. Inspectors have been deemed essential. So again, if they aren't doing it, it's their choice, and don't fight them on that. It's their choice to protect themselves. And then Legacy is wiring funds in, so you can talk to them, and they'll email you your package.
So if your inspector, Rob, can I interject real quick?
Yep.
So if the inspector that you typically use isn't doing that, again, of course, don't fight them, but ask around other agents because there are other inspectors that do. I think it's still critical that the buyers have the property inspected.
and though the one thing, Lloyd, it's inspector only.
Right.
It's
Yes.
not inspector and client. It's inspector only.
Right. And prep your buyer. So I don't know about the inspectors you guys use, but most inspectors, their written inspection is a lot harsher than, you know, the conversation they're having. Again, because they need to cover the CYA for them. So prep your buyer on what some of these inspections will look like.
Great
And
point.
maybe have a conference call too, like after the inspection. Do a Zoom call between you, the buyer, and the inspector. So
I mean, you could even do that Zoom call with the inspector at the house.
sure.
Right. So that had come up yesterday where someone needed to get their buyer wants to see the inspector and talk to them. And that's something you could do. Zoom everyone in together while the inspector's still at the house and say, well, here's what I found wrong with this, and here's this, and just to give them some more content. So definitely get creative. All right. So we have one more thing. Heidi wanted to ask a question or share something.
I was just going to say when we were talking about, you know, buyers not being able to see houses, because I did have one that went under contract, and the way that that worked was we did a FaceTime group call with myself, the seller did the walkthrough, the buyers were on, and the buyer's agent was on, and he walked through the whole house with them, opened stuff up, showed them things, and then they made an offer on it. And we do have that they will get to see it prior to closing, obviously. But I feel like that really helped them feel comfortable making that offer. And I also feel like we have a significantly less chance of them coming in and then changing their mind because they've already gotten to see it in more detail. So that would just be another idea if you've got buyers that are, or, you know, have a listing, either way. Might be.
Yeah.
Use the technology, get creative with it. It's going to be our new normal here for at least the short term. So I do want to get to Brent. Lloyd, thank you so much for doing this. I got like 4 pages of notes here. I hope everyone else did too. And if you have further questions, comments, or whatever for Lloyd, just speaking from personal experience, he is always open to have a conversation and help out with any advice anytime. So thank you again, Lloyd.
Thanks, Lloyd. Great job.
All right, my pleasure. I want to leave with one quick thing though. So when the market changes, recruiting for offices go up because now, you know, they're panicking. They need to find more agents, and especially the discount brokers that they're going to be calling, say, hey, we can save you on your desk fee, save you thousands of dollars. I don't want to work for a company that's going to save me a few $1,000s. I want to work with a company that can help me build my business and make an additional $25, $50, $75, $100,000. So I know when times get tough, sometimes agents their sole focus is on, you know, holding on to that money. But when you're holding on to that money, it's kind of hard to continue to grow your business. So make sure you do the right thing, asking the right questions. I'm more about growth. Yeah, I want to cut my expenses when I can, but there's certain items that are non-negotiable. So I want a company that's going to support me and help me grow my business where I can make tens of thousands and not just save a few thousand. So just want to share that with you guys.
Love that. Thank you, Lloyd, again. Really appreciate it. All right, I want to bring on Brent Wilson from Silverline. He's got some things to share about the mortgage industry and the changes that we're having there. So Brent, I unmuted you. You should be able to speak.
Hey, what's going on? One benefit, I don't know that's been mentioned about some, you know, the COVID-19 changes and the stay-at-home order nobody on this call is going to go over their miles on their car lease. Did you realize that? A couple people breathing a little easier.
Yeah.
And that I just thought about that the other day. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm all caught up already. Just a couple of weeks of having that bad boy in the driveway.
Right.
So, Lloyd, awesome stuff. It's great to hear your stories, and I think our experiences obviously somewhat different, but also very, very similar. I started my career in the tail end of 05, dealt with 06, and then obviously 07. There's some similarities to this market compared to that, and there's some major differences. Some of the major differences is the market's not flooded with as many mortgage products that are bad from the beginning, meaning you don't have a housing market where people are at very high interest rates right now. You don't have that. That leads to faster and more default on mortgage payments. You don't have negative amortizing programs that are out there. You don't have as many, 100% financing people. Like, everybody's got a nice piece of equity. You've got some unemployment issues hanging in the balance, but you don't have 12 to 15% unemployment. So there's a lot of things that, say that where we're at right now are much better, but then also there's a lot more probably unknown than there was at that time. And I just want to kind of take you through what's going on in the lending world, not so much so you can use this stuff to communicate with clients, but so that you have the knowledge at your fingertips, and maybe you can make some additional adjustments, as Lloyd said, to make you more effective in your communication and efficient as well. So obviously February, we fast forward or flashback 30 days ago, February, coronavirus just really starts making, the news here in the States. I mean, we'd all been seeing it for a little bit, but you remember in the stock market started trailing off and pulling back in the end of February. And when that happened, investors run to more secure things like mortgage-backed securities or treasury bonds, things that have safe returns. And we saw just a massive drop in interest rates from the high threes to the low threes. 15-year fix was even in the twos for a couple weeks there. Phone was ringing off the hook, 14-hour days. Great time to be a loan officer. 2 weeks, all our, not only is purchase booming because of your guys' efforts, but also I've got past clients that just bought a year ago refinancing. And, everybody's looking to save money. Applications, we've got a record pipeline over 10 million. Life is good. And then boom. And it gets real serious. 2 weeks later, probably March 10th, right after having a 16-year low in interest rates since I've been in the business. And within 1 day, the market and the supply was flooded. So that, all of a sudden lenders are at capacity. They can't, not only can they not handle any more business coming in, they don't want it because they want to be able to service their clients and take care of everything. They've got, in many cases, they've got 4 or 5 months worth of mortgage applications for their yearly goal. And so what do? They artificially raise interest rates. At the same time, people get so freaked out about the coronavirus, they don't want to put their money anywhere. So it's on the sidelines and nothing is reacting the way that it normally does. In fact, right after the Fed lowers interest rates to 0%, rates actually went up, and we saw them go drastically up, almost a full percent to 1.5% within a 48-hour time frame. So imagine rates going from 3.25% to 4.5%. That's what we were seeing. Imagine getting pre-approved, by the way, and all the numbers I'm running on a $300,000 purchase transaction are based on 3.5% or 3.6% conservatively. And then all of a sudden I'm going to call that client, you find, and rates are at 4.5%. So that was a little bit, tricky to deal with, but then market calmed down. We're back in a spot where we're seeing a little less volatility, but there was definitely some whiplash there. And now we're starting to see how it's going to, affect things during the shutdown. And I was on the phone with title companies and, left and right, I was talking with Pete and just trying to figure out how we can conduct business as usual. So everything's been pretty good so far. We've been able to close the loans that were in process. Now, what I want to caution you for, and maybe just educate you on, is a couple of things that you can expect to be different from a process standpoint, regardless of what lender you are working with. Number one is you guys were talking about inspections. The other side of that is the appraisal process, right? How do you get a home appraised when technically in Michigan, you're not supposed to have anybody in that home? Well, appraisers are considered essential. However, appraisers are also people. So that doesn't mean that every person is willing to take the risk of going into a house. And so you may occasionally run into delays on somebody accepting and completing an order. The other thing is that Fannie and Freddie understand this. They've reprogrammed their automated underwriting systems as of Sunday night. So yesterday was the first day we started to see this, but they are giving more property inspection waivers on the initial findings. So they're granting more appraisal waivers. You'll probably see an uptick in that. Who here on the call, just show of hands, has had a purchase transaction where they've not needed an appraisal before? Okay, so seems like almost everybody has experienced that blessing at least once in their career. It's a good thing. Lloyd, what's the benefit of not needing an appraisal?
Time.
Yeah, time. What else?
And the fear of it not appraising.
Yes, you don't have to worry about the value coming in low or something coming up needing a little bit of a repair. It really eases everybody's mind at the end of the transaction, and that alone can be a powerful negotiating tactic for getting your offers accepted. And it's even better sometimes when I'll make the call on your behalf to share that good news.
Well, Brent, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How is that determined if there can be a waiver or not?
Really, it's by statistical data in that zip code, in the area, from an algorithm that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac program in the back end.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it just means that there's comps out there in the database, whether it be from appraisals that are on file that have been completed recently, or loans that have closed and been backed by Fannie in that zip code. It's a plethora of things that can determine that. So credit is actually not one of them, but the more down, you do see them granted more on transactions where the borrower is putting 20% down versus you never see them when they put down 3%.
Right.
What I'm told is that we should be seeing, I get them on about 1 out of 4 transactions with 20% down.
But we don't know that.
Should see that go up a little bit to 50.
But we don't know that ahead of time when we're negotiating the offer, do we? It's really not until it gets.
I can find out as soon as you have an address.
Nice.
So if you have an address, happy to run that and see if that's something that we can achieve up front. The other thing is that they're going to start accepting drive-bys in cases where the appraiser is absolutely unwilling. Now they're going to be the lender's last resort. If they do a drive-by, they're going to want to make sure that they have other sources of pictures, whether it be from the listing itself, county records, things like that. And then the last thing would be that they'll just do a full appraisal, and that's still their preference. But again, getting somebody to accept the order and be okay with it, just the appraiser going in there is going to be acceptable as well. But that's what they've got planned for that. The other thing is obviously knowing your client's situation, like who's come into a situation where their client was temporarily laid off from the position. Anybody have that yet? Sharon, okay, you ended up having that. So
Yeah.
I would tell you, find that stuff out now and share it with the lender so that they can get a plan B worked up or figure out a game plan, just period. Because that is one that we're seeing, like, I don't know if you know this, the last thing that we do in the mortgage process, and I say we collectively, I don't mean I'm personally do this, but an underwriter will call on a telephone, and it's called a verbal verification of employment. And they will want to make sure that that person, so-and-so, hey, Pete is still, working as a level 3 engineer at Ford, correct? And no changes to his salary in the last 7 days? Great. Thank you for taking my phone call. And that's it. They verify that he's still employed at the same position, same rate of pay. one of the last steps. Well, you can imagine right now, that's a little bit challenging. What if you're a teacher, right? And you've been at home, yes, you're on salary. Chances are the teacher still qualifies. That's not considered a layoff. But getting somebody to pick up that phone call right now is a challenge. So what we're doing and seeing lenders do to accommodate is they're now accepting an email accompanied with a direct deposit bank statement showing a check that was recently just put in there in the last 30 days. And they're going to use that to suffice for the VOE requirement. But anything like that you know of or you are aware of, I would communicate that with your lender proactively, because the lender will find out at closing. And you'd rather have you deal with it now, a couple weeks in advance, you can still figure out a way to possibly close that loan. You don't want it coming up in the 24th hour of the transaction. You might also see this. You might see guidelines change. We've already seen programs go away. That was one of the big things that happened in 2007 is all of a sudden overnight, 50% of your program options were gone, and it was like just conventional loans and that's it. Like FHA, VA, everything went off the table, and that was crazy. And so even our conventional 3% down went off the market for a while there. You might start to see that. We've already seen jumbo leave. Jumbo is very hard to come by now. Only a few lenders still offering that product. That's any loan over $510,000, by the way. FHA, we have 9 lenders to work with and to choose from. We've got 2 weeks ago, the minimum FICO to get an FHA loan was 580 on the FICO score. Right now, I have 1 out of 9 lenders still offering that to a 580 FHA. I have 1 lender that's still doing those. The majority have raised FHA requirements to 640 on the minimum. So if you have FHA pre-approvals, just might want to double back, proactively have these conversations. That's what I'd be doing anyway. None of this is stuff to like scare you or make anybody nervous. It's just to be proactive on your communication. This is the time to go a little bit deeper with your lender, asking, are they pre-qualified or pre-approved with all income documents verified? And are they still employed? And have you double checked with the lender to make sure that they still qualify today the same way that they did 30 days ago? It won't matter. Like if lenders can't find anyone on the secondary market to purchase the loan, they will not offer the product and they will not close it. And that's where I remember seeing a lot of things go haywire in the last financial crisis, was the product guidelines changing so fast that people couldn't keep up with it.
Hey, Brent, real quick, just a question. Are you seeing, what are you seeing as far as like new applications? Are you guys dropped? Is it?
We're coming off of it's crazy. It's just like Lloyd said, hey, there's still plenty of motivated buyers. So if people were in a spot where they couldn't afford a home and they were already a little nervous, this has probably put those clients on the fence or on the sideline for the time being. Nurture the relationship, be there for them. When we come out and the sun comes out again, like those will be your first clients to get in process or to re-enroll. But the people that are very motivated are still very motivated, and they're finding ways to buy homes. Today, I'm about to have a meeting with my team announcing that we just had our record closing month in March. So closing loans at a record pace, and purchase applications have not slowed down at all. Refis have ticked off a little bit, but the purchase bubble doesn't seem to be bursting at all.
Dan Norato, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, so I have a closing on Friday through UWM, and I got a call from my lender yesterday basically saying that you would know the name, Brent, is a testation. It's a document essentially where they're verifying income or employment literally at the closing, the day of closing, and they will not fund the money until we send it back to them to approve it and then fund the money, which has never happened with UWM. I use them all the time. Never in my life have I seen that.
Yeah. We use them a lot, and they're one of the more aggressive lenders when it comes to the guideline changes that they've made. That is one. They're basically having the notary verify at the closing. They're signing a small document that the notary is asking them if they still have a job. they're just, again, doing a CYA for the servicing side. The third thing, and the last point I wanted to make is being able to decipher from the headlines and be an advisor to your clients. I call this like irresponsible communication when journalists or the media will post things in headlines to obviously get viewers and to get engagement without really communicating the whole story. One of those big things you'll always see in these types of market is like all these buzzwords come out: stimulus package, relief, financial hardship, forbearance. Like you've probably already heard the one about deferring 2 mortgage payments. Lloyd, you referenced it earlier. So I know it's out there. I know you're seeing this. Your clients are going to mention this. And as a real estate community, this is where we have to be proactive in our communication and help people understand that forbearance does not equal forgiveness. Like forbearance is not forgiveness. This is like, this is real money. These are real contracts. These are real loans. And even though Fannie and Freddie want to offer this to help the country get through a difficult time, and I understand it, this isn't something you want all your clients doing, because this is what will freeze the credit market. If people start missing payments, that's where shit could get dicey. Right now, we're fine. These are, choppy waters, but we can navigate them. If people start missing payments, that is going to shut down lending, period, because even though Fannie may reimburse the servicers for these payments, they're still on the hook for the front end. The servicer has to cover those payments to Fannie and Freddie on the secondary market. And we're talking, I mean, if everybody starts falling in to this pitfall, that's millions and millions of dollars cash on hand. Lenders don't have like millions and millions of dollars just at their disposal, because when they lend, they're lending off of a giant multi-billion-dollar Amex. It's called a warehouse line. Most of them they're not lending from the money that you deposit in your safety deposit box or anything like that. So if they don't have the capital to front that, they default. And when they default, they get shut down and can't originate. And so just making sure that people understand to make their payments at all costs. Like, I mean, just about all costs. That program is there, but if you go down 30 days, that's an official mortgage late. Dan mentioned UWM. UWM will not approve you if you have any mortgage lates in the last 12 months, and they're not even the most conservative. Like a mortgage late is one of the worst things you can have happen on your credit report. And so if your clients mention doing this, try to advise them against it at all costs, because that's really a program that's there for those that are just the heaviest impacted, like no reserves, maybe dual income got wiped out and they don't have any other way to keep the roof over their head. That's who that's for.
Sharon, did you have something you wanted to add?
Mine was just more kind of like a pick-me-up. It was just something cute. I didn't know if we're all done with this stuff. I don't know if anybody realized that I jumped up and kind of disappeared from the picture for a little while. I heard sirens in my neighborhood, and they were getting closer and closer, and fire sirens, and I didn't understand what was happening. So I jumped up and I ran out my front door, and it turns out that my neighbor has a little 3-year-old daughter, and in Livonia, somehow there must be some kind of a program set up that you can call, and they were parading 2 fire trucks and an ambulance down our street, honking the horns for her, and she was out in the yard waving, and so a bunch of the neighbors all came out, and we were all waving and said happy birthday to her and went and chatted with the neighbors for a couple minutes. It was really nice. It was a really cool thing, and I don't know if how to make that happen or if other communities are all doing something like that, but it was nice. I don't know. Just something I wanted to share. Nice little pick-me-up.
No, that is good. And I've seen some other stories of people doing that, like friends running around and driving through with signs and everything for that. Brent, we got one more question here. Even though rates are dependent on the borrower, there is a base of rates. Can you quote the ranges?
Yeah, what we're probably seeing right now is anywhere from and again, it's still very volatile. The market is up and down, quite a bit, but probably right around 3.875 on your conventional. So we're still in a great place. This is not like in 2007 when we were dealing with all this. We were also dealing with rates like near 7%.
Yeah, I remember I bought in 2009, and I think we closed at like 6, right around
Mhm.
6%. And at the time I got
That
the
was great.
inside deal right through the
Yeah.
in-house lender. And I was like, oh, sweet, this is awesome. I'm
Yeah.
cheaper than everyone else. And then it was shortly after that, everything just kept dropping and dropping. And we've refied a few times over the years just to catch that wave. So, I mean, 3.875 still
You young pups,
amazing.
Rob, 3.75, 6%. Mine was 13.5 when I started. So a little older.
Yeah,
Wendy can probably vouch on those too.
those are the dinosaur days.
Yes, they are.
Brent, thank you so much for joining us today and giving us that insight. If you guys have any other further questions on the mortgage stuff, contact Brent. He's also available. Like I said, Lloyd is available too, and these guys are more than willing to help out with everything.
What's
Thanks for
Brent's number, Rob, real quick?
Brent, you want to say your number?
Yeah, it's 810-275-2728. Put it here. Amanda is on the call too. Amanda put her phone number in the group chat there. But yeah, we're not seeing any slowdown from purchase application side. And I think some of these changes, I just wanted to really get in front of everybody so that you're hearing it from me and can kind of be prepared. And then even if you need me as a resource to figure out what options are available, whether you're using me or not, like that is something I'm more than willing to do for this group, this community of agents to be better and to help you with your transactions. But sometimes these changes are good. The tightening of the belt, I think, makes it a little bit easier to, make a decision faster. So the people that are maybe less qualified or might have been a little bit iffy one way or the other, you can quickly give them a no, not right now. Clean break, give them a game plan for the future and move on to somebody that's well qualified. And then the more well qualified people you work with, the more of their well qualified friends that they'll send you.
Well, thank you both. Hey, find the motivated people, right? Get your mindset right. Go ahead, Lloyd.
Yeah, just a few things too, if I can just
No, go ahead.
chime in less. First, again, we talked about the right mindset. I think you got to feed positive things in your mind. There's so many negative things going on. What are we doing that's positive? What are we listening to that's positive? Because it's hard for us to be positive if we're only feeding in the negative that we watch and read and see. I think bold law, we can have fear or faith, can't have both. So I choose to have faith. Second, do our job. There's a lot of things that we need to be doing, that we need to keep doing, learning the skills, help your neighbor. And there was a quote that I love in the shift book that I'll just end on. And it was right in the introduction. He goes, the worst that happens to you can be the best thing for you if you don't let it get the best of you. Unknown author, but I think it's a great quote, especially right now. So let me know if there's anything to do to help you guys.
Thank you, Lloyd. Pete, any last words?
Nope.
All
I think
right.
we're good to go. Yeah. Look at that, Rob. Nothing from me.
All right, everyone. Have a great day. If you need anything, reach out. We're all here for you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks,
Thank
Rob.
you.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.